I overheard my wife's phone call while pretending to nap and discovered she'd been planning my accident for months. The living room was perfect for Sunday afternoon naps. Golden light streamed through the windows as I settled into my recliner, baseball game droning softly in the background. After 23 years of marriage, Veronica knew my weekend routine by heart. Work stress had been killing me lately. Ironic, considering what I was about to discover. I just closed my eyes when her phone rang in the kitchen. She usually took calls in our bedroom for privacy, but today she must have thought I was already asleep. The caller ID probably showed Diana's name. My sister-in-law called frequently about family gatherings and holiday plans. "It's me," she said, her voice carrying that tone she used for important calls. The same tone she'd used when coordinating our last family reunion, when she'd spent hours organizing every detail with military precision. I kept my breathing steady, feigning sleep. Veronica thought I was dead to the world once my eyes closed. She'd often joked about how I could sleep through earthquakes, fire alarms, even that time our neighbor's car alarm went off for 3 hours straight. "Next Friday," she continued. "The hiking trail like we discussed. He always takes those stupid photos at the overlook." My blood turned cold, but I forced myself to remain still. Photos at overlooks? We'd talked about hiking, but she'd made it sound spontaneous. A romantic getaway to reconnect after months of marriage tension. The insurance investigator won't question a hiking accident, especially with his heart medication making him dizzy. Heart medication. I'd never taken heart medication in my life. My last physical showed perfect cardiovascular health, blood pressure normal, cholesterol levels excellent. 27 years I've been planning this, Diana. Ever since I found out about the policy changes. Diana, my sister-in-law, my own brother's wife, the woman who'd been my family's confidant for over a decade, who babysat our neighbor's kids, who brought casseroles when people got sick. "The fall needs to look natural," Veronica said, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. "One slip on loose rocks. No one will think twice about a 50-year-old man with balance issues." Balance issues I didn't have either. I ran 3 miles every morning and had never so much as stumbled on our evening walks around the neighborhood. $2 million is worth the wait. Plus the house, the business, everything. Derek won't know what hit him. Derek. That was me. My wife was discussing my murder like she was planning a grocery list, her tone as casual as when she discussed weekend dinner plans. "Just make sure you're there as my alibi witness. Grieving family members always look more believable together. We'll comfort each other through the tragedy." I heard her moving toward the living room. I slowed my breathing, letting my mouth fall slightly open the way she'd always teased me about. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure she'd noticed the pulse in my neck. Her footsteps stopped beside my chair. I felt her studying me, probably checking if I'd overheard anything. The silence stretched forever, each second feeling like an hour. "He's completely out," she whispered into the phone. "Like always, sleeps like the dead." The irony of that phrase hit me like ice water. Soon, if she had her way, I'd be sleeping permanently. She walked back to the kitchen, her voice returning to normal volume. "Friday morning, 9 sharp. Wear your hiking boots and bring tissues. We're about to become very wealthy widows." The call ended. I heard her humming as she started dinner preparations, the same tune she always hummed when she was happy, the same tune she'd hummed on our wedding day. For the first time in our marriage, I was truly afraid of my wife. That night, I lay in bed listening to her peaceful breathing, my mind racing. 27 years of marriage, and she'd been planning my murder for decades. Every loving gesture, every shared moment, every time she'd insisted I increase my life insurance, it was all building toward Friday. The memories started flooding back with horrifying clarity. Our 5th wedding anniversary, when she'd surprised me with a romantic dinner and casually mentioned that we should increase our life insurance just to be safe. The way she'd handled all our financial planning, always insisting she had my best interests at heart. The careful way she'd documented every minor health complaint I'd ever mentioned, keeping a running list of my concerns. Last year, when she'd suggested we update our wills and insurance policies just to be responsible adults. The way she'd researched heart specialists after I'd mentioned a mild chest tightness during a particularly stressful week at work. Her insistence that I see Dr. Henley, a cardiologist she'd supposedly found through a friend's recommendation. Dr. Henley, who I'd never actually met because the appointment kept getting rescheduled due to emergencies at his office. I thought back to our conversation last month when she'd suggested the hiking trip. "You need to get outdoors more," she'd said, rubbing my shoulders in that way that used to comfort me. "All this stress from the business isn't good for your heart." My heart was fine. I'd had a complete physical 6 months ago, clean bill of health. But suddenly I understood why she'd been so insistent about the doctor visits, why she'd started researching heart specialists, why she'd left medication pamphlets around the house. She was building a medical narrative, a false medical history that would make my accidental death seem not only plausible, but almost inevitable. I remembered how she'd reacted when our neighbor Peterson had his heart attack last spring. While I was genuinely concerned for the man's health, Veronica had seemed almost excited, asking detailed questions about his symptoms, his medication, his lifestyle factors that might have contributed to the attack. She'd been researching, gathering information for my fictional medical condition. The next morning, Veronica made her specialty, blueberry pancakes with real maple syrup, the same breakfast she'd made on our anniversary, on my birthday, on every occasion she wanted to butter me up or celebrate something special. "I thought we could start planning our hiking adventure," she said, sliding the plate across the table with a smile that now looked predatory. "I found this beautiful trail online, Eagles Point. The views are supposed to be incredible." I forced a smile, trying to act normal while my stomach churned. "Sounds perfect," she She pulled out her tablet, showing me pictures of the trail she'd clearly spent hours researching. My stomach lurched when I saw the overlook, a narrow rock ledge with a 300-foot drop into a canyon filled with jagged rocks. This spot here, she pointed to the exact location where she planned to kill me. Perfect for photos. The website says it's the most photographed spot on the entire trail. Perfect for murder, more like it. The trail guide says to be careful of loose rocks, she continued, her finger tracing the edge of the cliff like she was caressing it, especially for people with balance issues or heart problems. There it was again. Balance issues and heart problems I didn't have. Maybe I should see a doctor first, I said carefully, testing her reaction. Make sure I'm up for the hike. Her eyes flashed, just for a second, before she caught herself. It was like watching a mask slip for a millisecond before snapping back into place. Oh, honey, you're fine. A little fresh air will do you good. You've been cooped up in that office too long. After she left for work at the marketing firm, where she'd been a senior account manager for 15 years, I searched our computer for any evidence of her planning. What I found made my hand shake so badly I could barely type. Hidden in a folder labeled Vacation Ideas was a detailed dossier about Eagles Point, weather patterns, tourist traffic, emergency response times, cell phone coverage maps. She'd researched everything down to the average number of hikers on weekdays versus weekends, the geological composition of the rocks, and the exact height of the drop. She'd even found news articles about previous accidents at the location, 3 deaths in the past decade, all ruled accidental. But the worst discovery was a document titled Derek's Health Issues. She'd created an entire fictional medical history for me. Heart problems, balance issues, medication interactions, dizzy spells, family history of cardiac events. None of it was true, but it looked convincing enough to fool an insurance investigator. She'd even forged doctor's notes from physicians I'd never met, complete with letterheads and supposedly official medical recommendations for various heart medications. The attention to detail was terrifying. She'd researched the doctors' backgrounds, their writing styles, even their prescription patterns. I printed everything and hid the copies in my office safe, the same safe where I kept our important documents. The irony wasn't lost on me, hiding evidence of my planned murder next to our marriage certificate. That evening, I decided to test the waters. During dinner, I casually mentioned feeling a little dizzy after climbing the stairs. Oh no, Veronica said immediately, her concern sounding genuine to anyone who didn't know what I knew. Maybe you should sit down. Are you having chest pains too? I wasn't having chest pains. I felt fine. No chest pains, I said. Just a little lightheaded. She was up immediately, bringing me water and insisting I put my feet up. This is exactly what I was worried about, she said. All this stress is affecting your heart. We really need to get you to that cardiologist. The same cardiologist whose appointments kept getting mysteriously rescheduled. Maybe we should postpone the hike, I suggested. Absolutely not, she said quickly, a little too eager. Fresh air and exercise are exactly what you need. But we'll take it slow. Stop frequently. I'll take care of you. She'd take care of me, all right. Permanently. That night, my brother Marcus called to chat about weekend plans. Hey, Diana mentioned you and Veronica are planning a hiking trip. Mind if we tag along? My blood froze. This was it. Diana's alibi. They'd both be there to witness my accident. Friday morning, right? Marcus continued. Diana's been looking forward to it all week. She's already bought new hiking boots and everything. New hiking boots for my murder. The thoughtfulness was touching in the most horrifying way possible. I had to make a choice. Confront them and risk they just postpone the plan, or let it play out and try to turn the tables. Actually, I said, I was thinking of inviting my business partner Garrett. The more the merrier, right? Marcus agreed enthusiastically. If they wanted witnesses, I'd give them witnesses. The right kind. The next morning, I called Garrett Romano, my business partner of 15 years. We'd built our accounting firm from nothing, surviving economic downturns, difficult clients, and personal crises. If anyone would believe me, it was him. Derek, that's insane, he said after I explained everything. Are you absolutely sure? I played him the recording I'd made on my phone the night before when Veronica called Diana to confirm the hiking plans. His silence stretched for a full minute. Jesus Christ, he finally whispered. She's really going to try to kill you. We need to call the police, I said. With what proof? A phone recording that could be taken out of context? They'd just deny everything and postpone the murder until later. Besides, conspiracy to commit murder is hard to prove without an actual attempt. So, what's your plan? I'd been thinking about that all night, lying in bed next to my would-be murderer. We let them think they're in control, I said, but we document everything. Multiple witnesses, hidden cameras, recorded conversations. When they make their move, we'll have everything we need to put them away forever. Garrett was quiet again. This is dangerous, Derek. What if something goes wrong? What if you actually fall? Something's already gone wrong. My wife wants to kill me for insurance money. We spent the rest of the day planning. Garrett would bring his teenage son, Jeremy, who was obsessed with photography and always carried multiple cameras. We'd position people strategically along the trail. Most importantly, I'd wear a recording device that could transmit to Garrett's phone in real time. If anything happens to me, I told him, you'll have audio evidence of everything. Nothing's going to happen to you, Garrett said firmly. We won't let it. Tuesday brought another revelation. I was going through old bank statements when I noticed a pattern of small withdrawals from our joint savings account. $50 here, $100 there, never enough to trigger my attention. But over the past 2 years, the total was nearly $8,000. I called the bank and requested detailed records. The withdrawals had been made by Veronica, always in cash, always from different ATMs around the city. What was she doing with $8,000 in untraceable cash? Wednesday morning brought a surprise. Veronica announced she'd made a doctor's appointment for me. Dr. Henley finally had a cancellation, she said. This afternoon at 3 p.m. Dr. Henley, the phantom cardiologist. I can't make it today, I said. Too much work. Her mask slipped again, just for a second. Derek, your health is more important than work. This appointment took months to get. Then why did he suddenly have a cancellation? She stammered for a moment before recovering. Someone else canceled. We got lucky. Lucky. Right. I called the number she'd given me for Dr. Henley's office. It went to a generic voicemail with no mention of cardiology or any doctor's name. The address she'd provided led to a small office building that housed a nail salon, a tax preparer, and a massage therapy clinic. No medical offices. She was planning to drug me, get me alone in a fake doctor's office, and slip me something that would make me dizzy and disoriented for the hike. Actually, I changed my mind, I told her. I'll make the appointment. But instead of going to the fake address she'd given me, I drove to the real medical building in that area and asked about Dr. Henley. Never heard of him, the receptionist said. And we keep records of all the physicians in this district. I also discovered that the office building Veronica had directed me to was owned by a shell company. Further investigation revealed that the shell company was registered to someone named Victoria Hutchins, Veronica's maiden name. She'd rented an office space specifically for my fake medical appointment. That evening, Veronica asked how the appointment went. Great, I lied. Dr. Henley says I'm in perfect health. He actually recommended the hiking trip. Her face went through a series of micro-expressions, confusion, frustration, anger, before settling back into her concerned wife mask. That's wonderful, honey. I was so worried, but I could see the wheels turning. If I hadn't gone to her fake appointment, hadn't been drugged or given false medical information, she'd have to adjust her plan. Wednesday night, she suggested we review the trail map together. I want to make sure you're comfortable with the entire hike, she said, her voice dripping with false concern. She spread the map across our kitchen table, pointing out various landmarks with the enthusiasm of a tour guide planning the vacation of a lifetime. The trailhead here, then about 2 miles through forest terrain to the scenic overlook. That's where we'll stop for lunch and photos. Her finger lingered on the overlook like she was caressing it. The guide recommends staying well away from the edge, she continued. The rocks can be unstable, especially after rain. There hadn't been rain in 2 weeks. Good thing I'll have you there to keep me safe, I said. Her smile was perfect, loving, protective, completely convincing. If I hadn't overheard her phone call, I never would have suspected a thing. I also researched the emergency response times, she said, just in case something happens. The nearest hospital is 45 minutes away by ambulance. She'd researched emergency response times for my murder. Hopefully we won't need that information, I said. Of course not, but it's always good to be prepared. Prepared to ensure I'd be dead before help arrived. During our map session, I noticed she'd marked several points along the trail with tiny pencil dots. When I asked about them, she said they were scenic spots worth photographing. But looking closer, I realized they were all places where the trail narrowed or passed near drop-offs. She had backup murder locations in case the main overlook didn't work out. Thursday morning, I received a call from our insurance agent. Mr. Derek, I wanted to confirm the policy changes your wife requested. What policy changes? The beneficiary update she submitted yesterday. She's added her sister as a secondary beneficiary. Veronica didn't have a sister. I think there's been a mistake, I said. Let me check the paperwork. Here it is. Diana Mason, listed as your sister-in-law. Is that correct? Diana. She was ensuring that if something happened to both me and Veronica, the money would still go to someone in their conspiracy. Actually, can you hold off on processing that change? I'd like to review it first. Of course, we'll need your signature anyway. Thursday evening, she insisted on packing my backpack herself. I want to make sure you have everything you need, she said, carefully selecting each item. I watched her like a hawk as she packed. Water bottles, energy bars, first aid kit, emergency whistle. Everything a caring wife would pack for her husband's safety. But hidden in the side pocket, where I wouldn't notice until it was too late, I found a small bottle of pills. Heart medication. The same medication she'd been researching online. The same medication that would explain my dizzy spell and disorientation before the fall. I palmed the bottle and replaced it with identical-looking vitamins from our medicine cabinet. Later that night, I examined the pills under my desk lamp. They were beta blockers, medication that could indeed cause dizziness and confusion in someone who didn't normally take them. In the right dosage, they could make someone lose their balance at a critical moment, like when they were standing near a cliff edge. I saved 2 of the pills as evidence and flushed the rest down the toilet. While examining the pills, I noticed something else in my backpack, a small device I didn't recognize. It looked like a GPS tracker, the kind used to monitor elderly patients or track vehicles. She wanted to know exactly where my body would be found. Thursday night, Veronica was restless. She kept getting up to check things, the weather forecast, our alarm clock, her hiking boots. Nervous about tomorrow? I asked. Just excited, she said. It's been so long since we've done something adventurous together. Adventurous. That was one way to put it. When was the last time we went hiking? I asked. She thought for a moment. Our honeymoon in Colorado. Remember? We hiked to that waterfall. I remembered. It was one of my favorite memories of our early marriage. We'd been so happy then, so in love, or at least I thought we had been. Now I wondered if she'd been calculating my life insurance value even then. That was a beautiful trail, I said. Much safer than this Eagles Point place. Don't worry, she said. I'll keep you safe. The promise sent chills down my spine. Friday morning arrived gray and overcast. Perfect weather for an accident, I thought grimly. Veronica was unusually cheerful during breakfast, humming as she made coffee and chatting about the beautiful photos we'd take. I charged both camera batteries, she said. We'll get some amazing shots at the overlook. The overlook where she planned to push me to my death. Did you remember to pack the first aid kit? I asked. Of course, though hopefully we won't need it. She wouldn't need it. I'd be dead. I also packed some of those energy bars you like. The hike is going to be more strenuous than our usual walks. She wanted me tired and vulnerable when we reached the killing ground. At 8:30, we loaded into our SUV and headed to the trailhead. The drive took 40 minutes, and Veronica kept up a steady stream of conversation about the scenery, the weather, how much she was looking forward to our adventure. I responded appropriately, all while checking that my recording device was working and positioned correctly under my shirt. You seem nervous, she observed about halfway there. Just haven't hiked in a while, I said. Want to make sure I can keep up. Don't worry, we'll take our time, and if you start feeling dizzy or weak, we'll stop immediately. She was already setting up the narrative. By the time we reached the overlook, everyone would think I'd been struggling with health issues all morning. The parking area was nearly empty when we arrived. Just one other car, an older sedan I didn't recognize. Looks like we'll have the trail to ourselves, Veronica said with satisfaction. Fewer witnesses to the murder. Marcus and Diana pulled up 5 minutes later, followed by Garrett and Jeremy in Garrett's pickup truck. Beautiful morning for a hike, Diana called out, her voice just a little too bright. She hugged Veronica like they were excited for a fun family adventure instead of plotting my murder. Derek, you're looking a little pale, Diana said, studying my face with apparent concern. Are you feeling all right? Just tired, I replied. Didn't sleep well last night. Maybe we should wait until you're feeling better, Marcus suggested, genuinely concerned for his brother's welfare. Nonsense, Veronica cut in quickly. Fresh air is exactly what he needs. A little exercise will wake him right up. Jeremy immediately started taking pictures. The parking area, the trailhead sign, our group gathering together. Perfect documentation. Everyone ready? I asked, shouldering my backpack. We set off into the forest, following a well-marked trail that wound gently upward through pine trees and occasional clearings. For the first mile, it actually felt like a normal family hike. Veronica stayed close beside me, occasionally taking my arm when the path got rocky. Careful here, she'd say. These roots could trip you up. Or, watch that loose gravel. She was laying the groundwork, establishing my supposed instability for the witnesses. Diana played her part perfectly, expressing concern whenever I slipped slightly or paused to catch my breath. Derek, you're looking a little winded, she said during our first rest stop. Are you sure you're up for this? Just need a moment, I replied, playing up the breathlessness. Veronica immediately pulled out the water bottle. Here, drink this. The altitude can be challenging. Altitude? We were barely 1,500 feet above sea level. Jeremy continued taking photos throughout the hike, including several of Veronica being so attentive and caring. If their plan had worked, those photos would have been perfect evidence of the devoted wife who'd done everything possible to keep her husband safe. Garrett walked slightly behind the group, keeping his phone positioned to record audio and occasionally video of our interactions. About halfway to the overlook, I decided to test something. I'm feeling a little dizzy, I announced, stopping and putting my hand to my forehead. Veronica was beside me instantly. Oh no, here, sit down. She guided me to a fallen log and pulled out the water bottle again. Drink this slowly. You might be dehydrated. Maybe I should take my medication, I said. Her eyes lit up. Yes, absolutely. It's in your backpack, remember? She was practically vibrating with excitement. This was the moment she'd been planning for. I reached into my backpack and pulled out the bottle of pills she'd planted. Just one, she said. That should help with the dizziness. I pretended to take one of the pills, palming it instead. Good, she said. That should kick in within the next hour, just in time for the overlook. We continued hiking, with Veronica monitoring my condition every few minutes. How are you feeling now? She'd ask. A little better, I'd reply, though I made sure to stumble occasionally. Marcus began to express genuine concern for my welfare. Derek, you really don't look good. Maybe we should head back. I'm fine, I insisted. Just need to pace myself. Diana chimed in with her fake concern. You're being very brave, but your health is more important than any view. By the time we reached the overlook approach, storm clouds were gathering. The wind had picked up, making the trees creak ominously. Maybe we should head back, Marcus suggested. Looks like weather's moving in. Oh, we're so close, Veronica protested. Just another quarter mile to the scenic overlook. We can't miss that after coming all this way. Diana nodded eagerly. We've hiked this far. Derek can handle a little wind, can't you? I agreed, and we continued up the increasingly steep path. The final approach to the overlook was treacherous even in good weather. The path narrowed to single file, with loose rocks and a steep drop-off on one side. Everyone be very careful here, Marcus called out. Stay close to the mountain wall. But Veronica had other plans. Derek, walk with me, she said. I want to make sure you don't slip. She positioned herself behind me, her hands occasionally touching my back as if to steady me. But I could feel the calculation in each touch, like she was measuring the exact amount of force needed. The overlook was exactly as advertised, a narrow rock ledge jutting out over a spectacular drop. The valley spread out below us, hundreds of feet down to a rocky canyon floor. Wow, Jeremy breathed, immediately setting up his camera for the perfect shot. Derek, you have to see this view, Veronica called, walking confidently to the edge. Come stand right here. She positioned herself at the exact spot where the rock ledge was narrowest, where one push would send someone tumbling into the abyss. Come on, she encouraged. This is the shot we came for. I walked toward her slowly, my heart pounding. This was the moment of truth. Right here, she said, patting the spot beside her. Perfect for photos. Jeremy had his camera ready. Marcus and Diana positioned themselves as if they were just casual observers, but I could see the tension in their postures. I stepped onto the ledge, acutely aware of the empty space behind me. Closer, Veronica urged. You can't see the full valley from there. Another step. I was now standing exactly where she wanted me. Jeremy, get ready, she called out. This will be the perfect shot. I felt her shift her weight slightly, positioning herself to my left. In my peripheral vision, I could see Diana moving behind us, probably to create confusion when Veronica made her move. The wind gusted harder, making us all sway slightly. Derek, Veronica said softly, there's something I need to tell you. This was it, her confession before the kill. I know about the affair, she said. Affair? What affair? I've known for months. Did you really think I wouldn't find out about you and that secretary? I stared at her in confusion. There was no affair. There was no secretary. Veronica, what are you talking about? Her face twisted with rage. Don't lie to me. I have photos. I hired a private investigator. She reached into her jacket pocket, pulling out what looked like printed photographs. You and Rebecca every Tuesday at the Riverside Hotel. Rebecca? My assistant was named Rebecca, but she was 67 years old and married to her high school sweetheart for 48 years. Veronica, you've made a mistake. No mistake, she snapped. You humiliated me. You destroyed our marriage. You left me no choice. She was building her motive, creating justification for what she was about to do, but the affair was completely fictional. That's why you have to die, she said, her voice barely audible over the wind. She raised her hands toward my chest. Veronica, stop! I grabbed her wrists. You've got this all wrong. Let go of me, she screamed. Diana, help me! Diana rushed forward, but instead of helping Veronica, she stumbled into Marcus, who caught her with a confused expression. In the confusion, Jeremy's camera flash went off repeatedly, capturing everything. Veronica tried to push me, but I was ready. I stepped sideways, pulling her with me away from the edge. What the hell is going on? Marcus shouted. She's trying to kill me, I said, still gripping Veronica's wrists. He's lying, Veronica screamed. He tried to push me off the cliff. Actually, Garrett's voice came from behind us. I think we have everything we need. Everyone turned. Garrett was holding his phone, and his son Jeremy was grinning widely. Got it all on video, Jeremy announced, including the confession about planning the murder. Veronica's face went white. You were recording? Diana whispered, her voice cracking. Everything, Garrett confirmed. The whole conversation, including the part where you admitted to planning Derek's murder for insurance money. Veronica tried to run, but Marcus blocked her path. Diana, she called desperately. Tell them it was self-defense. Tell them Derek attacked me first. But Diana was backing away, her face pale with terror. I can't, she whispered. I can't do this anymore. You have to, Veronica screamed. We planned this together. You're in this as deep as I am. That's enough, I said firmly. It's over. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. I need to report an attempted murder, I told the dispatcher. The hike back down was the longest 40 minutes of my life. Veronica alternated between crying and screaming at me, claiming I'd somehow forced her into planning my death. You drove me to this, she sobbed. Your constant traveling, your emotional distance. I had no choice. You had every choice, I replied, including divorce. And give up everything we built together? Let you walk away with half of everything? So that was it. Not just the insurance money. She wanted everything. 23 years I gave you, she continued. 23 years of my life, and you were going to leave me for some young secretary. There is no secretary, Veronica. There never was. Don't lie to me. I have proof. Diana confessed everything to Marcus as we walked, sobbing as she explained how Veronica had convinced her that I was abusive and planning to leave Veronica destitute. She showed me fake medical records, Diana said. She had photos that looked like bruises. She said you were going to commit her to a mental institution and take everything. I believed her, Diana continued. She's been my best friend for 20 years. I thought I was helping save her life. Marcus was devastated. His wife had been planning to help murder his brother. How long has this been going on? He asked. 2 years, Diana admitted. Ever since Veronica told me about Derek's affairs and abuse. 2 years of lies and manipulation. She showed me bank records that made it look like Derek was hiding money. Medical records showing injuries. She even had recordings of Derek supposedly threatening her. All fake. All fabricated to turn my own family against me. By the time we reached the parking area, 2 police cars were waiting, along with an ambulance and a detective. The arrest was swift and professional. Veronica tried one last manipulation, claiming I'd been psychologically abusing her for years and that she'd been acting in self-defense. He threatened to kill me if I ever left him, she told the detective. I was terrified for my life, but the evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, the fake medical records, the forged doctor's notes, the researched murder plan, the planted medication, everything painted a clear picture of premeditated murder. Diana was arrested as an accessory, though her cooperation and obvious remorse suggested she might receive a lighter sentence. The investigation that followed revealed even more damning evidence. Veronica's computer contained months of research about accidental deaths, insurance fraud, and how to avoid suspicion. She'd studied cases of successful murder-for-profit schemes and had been refining her plan for months. They found the fake office she'd rented for my medical appointment, complete with medical equipment she'd purchased online and fake diplomas she'd printed. The private investigator she'd hired to create the affair photos testified that Veronica had specifically requested doctored images showing me with another woman. He'd initially refused, but she'd paid him $10,000 in cash to create evidence of infidelity. That explained the mysterious cash withdrawals from our savings account. The trial lasted 6 weeks and became a media sensation. The hiking trail murder plot dominated local news, with reporters camped outside the courthouse every day. Veronica's defense team tried multiple strategies. First, they claimed diminished capacity due to emotional distress from my alleged affairs and abuse. When that failed, they argued that Diana had been the mastermind and Veronica was just a victim of manipulation. They even brought in Rebecca, my assistant, to testify about our working relationship. Rebecca laughed so hard at the affair accusation that the judge had to call a recess. "Your Honor," she said, when she finally stopped laughing, "I've been married to Harold for 48 years. Derek is like a son to me. The idea that we were having an affair is absolutely ridiculous." She then produced her own medical records showing she'd had hip replacement surgery 6 months ago and could barely walk to the mailbox, let alone engage in affairs at hotels. The prosecution then presented evidence that Veronica had hired a private investigator to create fake affair photos using digital manipulation. Computer experts testified that the photos had been doctored using readily available software, with Rebecca's face superimposed onto images of other women. The fake medical records were equally damning. Veronica had created an entire fictional medical history for me, complete with forged doctor's notes from physicians who didn't exist. The defendant spent months creating an elaborate fiction, the prosecutor argued. She fabricated medical conditions, forged documents, and manipulated her own family members into participating in a murder plot. This was not a crime of passion. This was calculated, premeditated murder for financial gain. The defense's final strategy was to claim that Veronica had been suffering from a delusional disorder that made her believe the fictional narrative she'd created. But the prosecution countered with evidence of her careful planning, her research into accidental deaths, and her methodical approach to creating false evidence. "Delusional people don't rent fake medical offices," the prosecutor said. "They don't carefully research emergency response times or study successful insurance fraud cases." The defendant knew exactly what she was doing. Diana received a reduced sentence of 2 years for conspiracy to commit murder in exchange for her testimony and cooperation. She broke down on the witness stand, explaining how Veronica had manipulated her fears about domestic violence. "She showed me pictures that looked like Derek had beaten her," Diana testified. "She had fake medical records showing injuries. She convinced me that Derek was planning to kill her and make it look like suicide. I thought I was saving my best friend's life," Diana continued through tears. "I never wanted anyone to get hurt." Marcus filed for divorce before Diana's trial even ended. The betrayal had destroyed their marriage beyond repair. Veronica received 25 years to life. The judge noted the premeditated nature of the crime and the elaborate deception involved. "This was not a crime of passion," he said during sentencing. "This was a calculated, cold-blooded murder plot that took years to plan and would have succeeded if not for the defendant's own carelessness in making that phone call." During her sentencing, Veronica looked directly at me with eyes full of hatred. "I loved you," she said. "Everything I did was because I loved you." "No," I replied. "Everything you did was because you loved money more than you loved me." The judge agreed, noting that Veronica had shown no remorse for her actions and continued to maintain her innocence despite overwhelming evidence. "The defendant has demonstrated a complete lack of empathy and an inability to accept responsibility for her actions," he said. "She represents a continuing danger to society." After the trial, the full scope of Veronica's deception became clear. The investigation revealed that she'd been planning my murder almost from the beginning of our marriage. Bank records showed she'd been researching life insurance policies since our 2nd year of marriage. She'd increased my coverage 6 times over the years, always with plausible explanations. "We need to protect our future," she'd said. "What if something happens to you? We have more assets now." Each time I'd signed the papers without question, trusting my wife to handle our financial planning. They also found evidence that this wasn't her first murder plot. Before we met, she'd been engaged to a wealthy older man named Theodore Wilkins, who died in a suspicious boating accident. The insurance company had investigated but found no concrete evidence of foul play. Theodore had been found floating face down in his lake house pond, apparently having slipped and hit his head on the dock. The insurance paid out $1.5 million to his fiancée, Veronica. The similarities were chilling. Both deaths were designed to look accidental. Both involved isolated locations where help would be slow to arrive. Both had substantial insurance payouts. Investigators reopened Theodore's case, but after 25 years, most of the evidence was gone. Still, the pattern was clear. She'd probably been planning to kill me from the day we married. The realization that I'd been living with a calculating murderer for over 2 decades was almost more than I could process. Every anniversary dinner, every vacation, every quiet evening at home, she'd been planning my death. I went through old photo albums, looking for signs I'd missed. Her smile in every picture now looked predatory. Her loving gestures seemed calculated. Even our wedding photos took on a sinister cast. Was she thinking about my life insurance value as we exchanged vows? The psychological impact was devastating. I'd trusted this woman completely, built a life with her, planned a future together. And all the while, she'd been counting down the days until she could kill me. I started seeing a therapist who specialized in trauma and betrayal. Dr. Martinez helped me understand that I wasn't crazy for missing the signs. Veronica had been incredibly skilled at deception. Sociopaths are expert manipulators, she explained. They can maintain false personas for decades. The fact that you loved and trusted her doesn't make you naive. It makes you human. The hardest part was reconciling the woman I thought I knew with the woman who'd tried to murder me. How could someone fake love for 23 years? How could someone sleep beside the person they were planning to kill? Sociopaths don't experience emotions the way normal people do, Dr. Martinez explained. What you interpreted as love was actually her satisfaction at successfully manipulating you. 6 months after the trial, I ran into Jeremy at the grocery store. He was now a senior in high school, still carrying his camera everywhere. "Mr. Derek," he called out. "How are you doing?" I smiled. This kid had literally saved my life with his photography obsession. "I'm doing well, Jeremy. How's school?" "Great. I'm applying to journalism programs. I want to be an investigative photographer." I wasn't surprised. He'd gotten a taste of real investigation work that day on the mountain. "Actually," he said, pulling out his phone, "I've been documenting the whole story for my senior project. Would you mind if I interviewed you?" I thought about it. Maybe telling the story would help other people recognize the warning signs. "Sure," I said, "but let's do it somewhere warm. I've had enough of mountain overlooks for one lifetime." We both laughed. Jeremy's project ended up winning a state journalism award and earning him a full scholarship to Northwestern University's journalism program. A year later, I sold the house. Too many memories of Veronica's fake affection and hidden planning. Every room held reminders of her deception. The kitchen where she'd made my last meal, the bedroom where she'd lain beside me planning my murder, the living room where I'd first overheard her phone call. I couldn't sleep in that bedroom anymore, knowing she'd lain there night after night, calculating the best way to kill me. I bought a small cabin near Jeremy's college, where he occasionally visits to show me his latest photography projects and update me on his investigative journalism studies. The cabin is simple but peaceful. No hidden spaces where someone could conceal murder weapons. No multiple exits where escape plans could be plotted. Just honest construction and transparent living. I never remarried. After 23 years of living with someone who was planning to kill me, I decided I prefer my own company. The solitude is peaceful after decades of wondering what my wife was really thinking. But I did get a dog. A German shepherd named Justice. She's excellent at detecting lies and fake affection. Dogs have better instincts about people than I do. Sometimes I wonder how many other people are living with someone who's planning their death. How many accidents aren't really accidents at all? The statistics on insurance fraud murders are sobering. Experts estimate that hundreds of spouses are killed each year for insurance money. If there's one thing I learned from this experience, it's that trust has to be earned, not assumed. Even from the people who claim to love you most. Especially from the people who claim to love you most. I also learned to pay attention to inconsistencies. Veronica's story had holes from the beginning. The phantom doctor appointments, the fake medical conditions, the sudden interest in life insurance increases. I'd ignored the warning signs because I trusted her. Now I trust but verify everything. The other lesson is more disturbing. Evil can hide behind the most loving facade. For 23 years, Veronica played the role of devoted wife perfectly. She remembered anniversaries, supported my career, comforted me during difficult times. None of it was real. Learning to accept that level of deception nearly broke me. How do you move forward when you discover that everything you believed about your life was a lie? Dr. Martinez helped me understand that my marriage wasn't entirely false. My feelings were real even if hers weren't. My love, my commitment, my trust, those were genuine emotions, even if they were directed at someone who didn't deserve them. You loved who you thought she was, Dr. Martinez said. That capacity for love is part of what makes you human. Don't let her deception destroy that. Last month, I received a letter from Veronica in prison. She wants to see me, claims she has important things to tell me about our marriage. I threw the letter away without reading past the first paragraph. Some conversations aren't worth having. 2 weeks later, I received another letter. This one I opened out of curiosity. "Derek," it read, "I know you think I'm a monster, but there are things you don't understand. Things about your family that you need to know. Your father's death wasn't an accident either. I can prove it. If you don't visit me within 30 days, I'll take this information to my grave. My father had died in a car accident when I was 12. A rainy night, slick roads, a tree he'd apparently hit while swerving to avoid a deer. I stared at the letter for an hour before burning it in my fireplace. If Veronica wanted to play games from prison, she could play them alone. After everything she'd put me through, I wasn't about to let her manipulate me with more lies about my family. But the letter haunted me. What if there was some truth to what she was saying? What if my father's death really hadn't been an accident? I pushed the thoughts away. Veronica was a pathological liar who'd spent decades deceiving everyone around her. There was no reason to believe anything she said now. These days, I spend my time hiking. alone or with Justice. I've become quite good at spotting unstable rocks and dangerous overlooks. I stick to well-populated trails and never hike alone without telling someone exactly where I'm going and when I'll be back. The irony isn't lost on me that hiking, the activity Veronica planned to use for my murder, became my path to healing. There's something therapeutic about putting one foot in front of the other, climbing toward a goal, reaching safe ground. And I never, ever pretend to nap when someone's on the phone nearby. You never know what you might overhear. Sometimes, late at night, I still wonder about my father's accident. But some questions are better left unanswered. The truth isn't always worth the price you pay to learn it. Justice and I are content with our quiet life. We hike, we read, we watch old movies, simple pleasures that don't require trust or faith in other people's motives. It's not the life I planned, but it's the life I survived. And survival, I've learned, is sometimes the greatest victory of all. Last week, I received a call from the prosecutor who'd handled Veronica's case. Derek, I wanted to give you a heads up. Veronica is appealing her conviction. My heart sank. On what grounds? Ineffective counsel. She claims her lawyers didn't properly present her mental health defense. Do you think she has a chance? Doubtful. The evidence against her was overwhelming, but appeals can take years to resolve. Years. More years of reliving the nightmare, testifying again, facing her in court. There's something else, the prosecutor continued. She's also filed a civil suit against you. For what? Emotional distress. She claims you psychologically abused her, driving her to attempt suicide. The audacity was breathtaking. She'd tried to murder me, and now she was suing me for emotional distress. Don't worry, the prosecutor said. It's a frivolous lawsuit. No court will take it seriously given her conviction, but you'll need to respond through an attorney. More legal fees, more time spent dealing with her manipulation. But I realized something as I hung up the phone. I wasn't afraid anymore. The worst had already happened, and I'd survived it. Veronica could file all the appeals and lawsuits she wanted. I knew the truth, and so did everyone else who mattered. The next morning, Justice and I went for our usual hike. The trail was busy with other hikers, families enjoying the outdoors, couples walking hand in hand, normal people living normal lives, trusting each other, building futures together. For a moment, I felt a pang of envy. Would I ever be able to trust someone that completely again? Maybe not, but maybe that was okay. Maybe survival was enough. As we reached the summit, I pulled out my phone and took a picture of the view. Not because anyone was expecting me to, not because it was part of some elaborate plan, but because it was beautiful. Justice wagged her tail, happy to be alive, happy to be hiking, happy to be with me. Sometimes the simplest happiness is the most profound.